Hello and welcome to The Long Play, where we look at some of the world's greatest albums. It's a bit like a book club, but there's no books. I'm Tom.
And I'm Paul.
Welcome back.
Oh, it's great to be back. It's great to be at the end of the first month, Tom.
I know, the sun's shining. We're in a new season. We're technically in spring. And
So I hear.
That's a good thing. I'm very pleased.
Yeah, so this is our episode looking at Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. So we launched at the start of the month, and here we are at the end of the month. We're back with our thoughts and review of the album and just how we found the whole process.
Yes, hopefully you've been listening along with us, and you've been listening to Blood on the Tracks as well. I, for one, have had a lovely time.
It's exactly what I hoped it would be. That kind of being almost forced is perhaps the wrong word, but encouraged
You can say forced.
encouraged to listen to a whole album and to really keep at it and focus on that one thing. And it's a long time since I felt like I had a view of a whole album and really appreciated a piece of work in its totality. And that's exactly what we were aiming for with this podcast was that, wasn't it?
You know, I was thinking about this the other day and how many albums that I think of that really sort of bookend a summer. Or like when I listen to it and go, God, I remember that. And it's because it's the only record I had in my car.
Yeah.
Like I remember, is it Once Again by John Legend? Like I specifically remember a week where I was doing a section of work and I just listened to that CD into the ground.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's because it's the only one that I had.
Yeah.
And it's because, now we don't, we have access to so much that, and now, this time, I mean, nothing too sort of large has happened, it's been, but there's been, like we said at the start, a change in seasons. The sun started coming out, and I know for me personally that makes a big difference to my sort of general feeling of levity.
Well, this is the album too.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we'll come on to this in a bit. But there's an amazing thing that he does all the way through this album is how jolly is the music?
Yeah.
But how depressing is the lyrics?
Yeah.
Like, he's an absolute master of it. There's a meme which goes around quite a lot, which is two drawings of people, like the same person sat on a bus, and one is colourful and one is black and white, and it says, which song is the music like this and the words like this? And I was like, well, this is actually, this is that.
Yeah.
Like every single track, the music is also sort of, I mean, there's a couple that are a bit more reflective and somber, but still, I wouldn't say they're like,
no, exactly.
Very sort of melancholic in its tone.
Yeah.
But the lyrics, again, are.
Yeah. So, listening to this album, day in, day out, I guess I've listened to it probably most days. Not every day, but most days. And it's what we hope for, in terms of songs that you thought were great at the start. You realise they were just perhaps a bit more accessible. Other songs kind of come through. And you start to understand the whole album as a package. So I've really, really liked that this month. And we've shared with the email list, for example, a number of reviews, and I definitely feel like reading more about the other people's opinions or reading more just about the kind of reviews of the album. That helps. I think it helps appreciate.
Yes.
It helps you access some of it, some different layers, I think.
Again, this is something we'll go into later, but last night I was doing a final bit of cramming just to try and sort of make sure I had all my notes down.
I can imagine you on your Pro Plus working through the night to get your work done.
Maybe that's just what I'm like, where I'm like, right, okay, I have to. Yeah, you always panic. Prepare. Fail to prepare to fail.
Prepare your lines.
Prepare your lines.
Fail to prepare.
Yes. Yeah. So I was doing a tiny bit of cramming last night, and I came across the version of Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts on More Blood, More Tracks,
Right. Yeah.
there's an extra verse.
Right. Oh, we need another verse in that.
Exactly. But I was then suddenly felt compelled that I need to listen to it. I didn't. The Pro Plus must have worn off. And I must have fallen asleep. But what I think I'm saying is that, finding background reading and filling in the gaps is a really, really nice thing.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed that. I enjoyed your email that you sent out.
Yeah.
It was,
Thanks, Tom.
you can sign up to our mailing list now if you want more of Paul's
mid-month missives.
Maybe that's what we should call it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that Dylan said is he can't believe people would listen to this pain. Is of because he
did it
put
feel
so
painful?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No. Yeah, and that's interesting actually, because obviously the artist is feeling that pain.
Yeah,
and definitely some of that emotion comes through onto the album, absolutely, and in the lyrics. But this didn't feel particularly a sad album, as you say. The music is relatively jolly at points, and I think the lyrics are it ebbs and flows. There's kind of lighter and darker moments.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like you were listening to his pain all the time, or at least I didn't feel that. And I know that a lot of people have described this as kind of one of the ultimate breakup albums.
Yeah.
And it did remind me of Blue by Joni Mitchell. I think because it's it's a contemporary of that. It has kind of similar style, and it is.
When was Blue released?
That's a good question, Tom. Don't ask me
I'll
questions off the top of my head. But I think it's before, because Tangled Up in Blue. Some people have said that Tangled Up in Blue, the blue in Tangled Up in Blue, is that album. Now, I think that's a bit on the nose for Dylan. I suspect,
71.
Oh, okay, quite a bit. Yeah, 4 years before.
Yeah.
And I don't actually believe that to be true, but it feels like there's similarities, and I've always loved. How can you not love Blue by Joni Mitchell? And it kind of reminded me of that in terms of its tone. But
maybe we should do that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I've got the record down there. You can borrow it.
Well, and actually interested. I loved Blue, but it kind of made me then go and listen to other Joni Mitchell, and The Hissing of Summer Lawns is my favourite Joni Mitchell album, actually. And it makes me think, well, maybe there's other Dylan albums that will be like this, but even more to my taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get stuck in.
Yeah, sure.
So we start at the top of the record with
Tangled Up in Blue.
Tangled Up in Blue.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Oh, God, start with me. Why don't you?
Well, I mean, I just thought it was clear. It's clearly a classic, and it's obvious why it would be chosen as an opener. Yeah, I think it's such a strong
what
track.
a way to open a record. Yeah. It's great. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I feel like all of my notes are like what I really like musically, which maybe is a nice counterpoint to what you might.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
to say that you're not going to be musical, Paul.
Well, you're more musical than I am, Tom. So let's play to our strengths.
Fine, okay. Well, I really like the melody. I really like the sort of tumble down feel and the cyclical nature of actually all of Dylan's music across this album.
Yeah,
I really like how everything feels musically very neat.
Mm-hmm.
He's got and this might be across all of his work, but his use of a turnaround phrase and then using that in 9 different ways.
Yeah.
So like using Tangled Up in Blue and using it in different fashions to mean different things.
Yeah.
He does it in that. He does it in Lonesome When You Go. He does it in Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts. Yeah, he does it in practically all of them.
Yeah.
Which maybe is a Dylanism and I'm late to the party. But I came to it organically. I did not look it up.
yeah, exactly.
But yes, I think it's a wonderful representation of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I knew that I'd struggle with Dylan's vocal styles. Yeah, that is kind of.
Do you know? I think I thought the same going in, but actually, I found less actually than I was initially.
Well, spoiler alert, I came to love it, generally. And I'm not somebody who listens to music with naturally great singers necessarily. I'm more into kind of hip hop or, Sleaford Mods, for example. My favorite singers can't necessarily sing.
Yeah.
But I know what I'm looking for them is passion,
across the way, like when you think of great singers.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them are
technically not.
Yeah. Technically is probably a good word.
Yeah.
Because it's more about the emotion and the feel. And
I have to say on Tangled Up in Blue, not a big fan of his. Some of those kind of vocal ticks that I don't like came up a bit more than on other tracks. But generally, I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
I did read one review that said that, he's such a genius, and using that really simple rhyme right at the start to rhyme bed with red in that first verse is genius. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's genius. Is it? Is that what, I do feel that sometimes you lose perspective when you're thinking of great songwriters, that you'll give them a kind of free hit on stuff that you would pick other people up on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with your kind of assessment of that kind of such great songwriting.
Yes, no, it's good. It's really, really good. And yeah, the scene setting, the sort of where he is in the album, it starts with such hope.
Yeah.
And then, and then you sort of start to get the larger picture. I did a bit of background listening, and it was talking about the counterpoint. So the way that he starts, I have to get this the right way around. He starts the song looking forward, and then basically he's changed tenses.
Yes.
Three times across the first stanza.
Yeah.
It's genius.
Yeah.
It's really
Tangled
clever.
Up in Blue, it is about kind of perspective and time as much as the story itself. So really clever. And it's a great example of Dylan as a songwriter, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many out of 10?
Oh, I think 7 for me. It's
7.
not like my favourite song on the album, but it's
Yeah.
and I think I'm happy to admit that it's perhaps not my favourite, but it's one of the other people will absolutely have it towards the top of their list.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I think 7's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe 7.5.
Well,
Why not?
Why not?
I think for my first experience on this journey,
Yeah.
I was just like, it felt like a really nice feeling to be kicking off.
Yeah.
And for that way, I do love the way that it begins. I think it's really nice to know it shouldn't sort of be judged on that. But yeah, I think I've pegged a bit more on it for nostalgia, and actually, I find myself singing it quite a lot. Yeah,
Great.
I'm not going to do a Dylan impression on the pod.
Tom Figgins cover version coming your way soon.
And then on Simple Twist of Fate.
So this was almost a turning point for me, because, as I say, I didn't really love Dylan's vocal performance on Tangled Up in Blue personally. And then Simple Twist of Fate started, and I thought, oh, it sounds like Bowie. And I thought it was very Bowie-esque, actually,
Right.
the start to that. And that kind of gave me a bit of a
start.
it's a bit of an in. I mean, that chord is very
that chord sequence.
Yeah.
I heard Leonard Cohen.
Oh, okay.
So that sort of
Yeah.
and the sort of styling of the vocal at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is the only one that I haven't written any notes on. I think it is just because I just absolutely lose myself in it when I hear it. I think it's in C, this song, and the sort of drop down to the major seventh, then down to the seventh again. That little walk down.
Yeah.
To me, it just sounds so Leonard Cohen.
Right.
But yeah, interesting that Bowie as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's I hadn't picked up on that, but yeah, I can hear what you mean.
Yeah.
I love this song. I absolutely love this song, and I think from the outset, it was my favorite.
Right.
I think it still is. Like, it just feels like such a perfect song.
Yeah.
Like, it's so neat. It's performed pretty wildly, but as a song, I think, like, everything that it's trying to say and everything that it does, and musically, it just, like I said earlier about the cyclical thing, like, it just does that so well.
Yeah.
And as well, this vocal choice that he makes here. Just great. It's just great.
Yeah.
It's so unexpected, and I love it.
So I'm not as big a fan of this song. I do love it, but it's not my favorite on the album. I think that kind of repeat kind of refrain at the end of each verse on Tangled Up in Blue really worked for me, and on this maybe less so. It just felt a bit kind of repetitive almost to me. But I like some of the rhyming scheme on this as well. I mean, to rhyme freight train with fate is genius. It's kind of in fact, if it was in a hip hop song, everybody would be kind of talking about how, by emphasizing freight, that you can rhyme with fate would be a kind of great move. And he was doing it in 75. He was absolutely, it works perfectly. Yeah, it works perfectly.
Did you do any reading of the lyrics on their own without the music?
No. I read along, but not. I
actually found that really beneficial, not reading along with the music.
Yeah,
not to kind of understand what he's saying more, but just to kind of see it all. Yeah. I don't know why. I feel like my eyes were doing a better job of kind of comprehending the depth of what he was talking about better than my ears were.
Right.
I think maybe it's just my ears, but I was just kept from getting distracted by the music and getting lost in the musicality of it all, which I guess is also the point. But I did find that I was having a better understanding when I was reading along.
Yeah.
But I didn't read any sort of alone. But I wonder how much of it would stand up as poetry, just as a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's a 9 for me.
Great. I think I'm at a 6 with Simple Twist of Fate. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Well, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Whereas You're a Big Girl Now, next one, that is right up there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about the tone of this album, that it just feels pretty jolly, for an album that's about pain. That kind of, I just love the introduction and the melody. The Spanish guitar is just...
I don't think I like this song.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's, I think there's 3 guitars going on in this. I think there are.
Yeah.
Is there? It's either 3 or there's 2, but there's one basically panned hard right in the right ear.
Yeah.
And every single way round, it plays a wrong note.
Uh-huh.
Which feels like it must be intentional.
Yeah.
But to me, it just literally feels like I'm being punched out of a stupor. Like it feels so jarring.
Yeah.
That I just can't get away from. And it just feels really sloppy. I don't know if it's him doing, I don't know if they overdubbed the added guitar on or if it's all being done live. I think it probably would have been overdubbed.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. We talked about this a couple of weeks back when we said what our favorite songs were at that moment in the process, and you said this, and since then I think I've been like, what am I missing with this?
Yeah.
And I just don't love it.
Yeah, interesting. I think
I don't love it, and the guitar is really pulling my ear.
Yeah, I think isn't it interesting though that this is absolutely one of the greatest albums of all time. Any kind of lists always include this album.
Yeah.
And yet the technical vocals are not great and some of the playing's not great. So what constitutes a great album? Well, actually, and we know this about art really, it's not about the technicality, is it? It's about all of those things together. And it's really evident in this album.
Completely. Yeah. And I think that's why when I said obviously this, I feel like that was a choice. Yeah. That they've chosen and gone, well, this is either that or it was a happy, in inverted commas, accident, and they've gone, oh well, let's keep it like this. But I don't like the choice.
Yeah, well, and again, that is really interesting between kind of me and you, because I've never played a musical instrument in my life, so I don't have that ear in the same way that you do, which means that with that kind of ear, you can get distracted by stuff that perhaps I just never even noticed.
Sure.
And that's, I think it's often one of those things that the more you develop your palette in things, the more of a curse it can almost be, because you're picking up little kind of annoyances or
Yeah,
things that
sure.
other people perhaps don't pick up quite so much.
Yes, and being a guitar player as well. Like
Yeah.
this sort of style is very much within my wheelhouse. If you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be sort of walking into it anyway with a tiny bit of a critical ear, but as well, I think it's just the stylings of, because it's so sparse. I think it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And the first time I think I went, "Oh, what was that?
Yeah.
That was weird."
Yeah.
And I think I just put it down to a sort of, I don't know, a harmonic somewhere which just pulled my ear, and maybe it wasn't as there as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then I sort of went, "Oh, well, next time I go round, I'll listen out for that again." And I was like, "Oh, he plays a bum note there."
Yeah.
And then every single way, I can't remember whether it's in the verse or the chorus, but every single time, I think it's just before he sings, "You're a big girl now." And then, these as well, these massive rakes that are just so loose.
Yeah.
Like they just come out of absolutely nowhere. And and how loud the harmonica is mixed as well is, on some of the systems that I listened to it on, was unbelievably loud.
I agree. It felt like it was maybe a bit out of place on the album. It felt more of a modern song. Or to me, to my ear, it felt like it wasn't a classic Dylan song. It was a bit surprising, as you say, that kind of introduction. Felt more modern. In my notes, I think it says, "Do we need a harmonica solo on every song?" Yeah. I know that's a Dylan thing, but it's not necessarily my kind of thing. I don't mind the odd harmonica solo, but it feels like it's done a lot and perhaps too much for my liking.
But I guess it's kind of indicative of him, and like he would go out with a guitar and a harmonica and do that. And I can understand why. It's almost like that's just an extension of his thing, as opposed to him going, "Well, I can play the harmonica. Why don't I chuck it on this?"
Yeah.
As well, on the one thing that this song does have for it is it's maybe
good to have one thing.
It's got the best line.
You like that line?
Best line on the whole album, which is like a corkscrew to my heart ever since we've been apart.
Yeah.
I mean, a corkscrew. That's so visceral. And the way he delivers it as well. The word screw has got such a sort of a bounce to it, which it just adds to that kind of, I don't know, that twisting that you kind of imagine. It really got me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of the song I could take or leave.
Oh, well, I'm going to give it a 8.5.
Oh, yeah.
What are you giving it?
5.
Great stuff.
And I feel bad. I
don't feel bad about your choices, Tom.
No, but I feel like this feels like it could be one that in 6 months I say is my favorite. And then I'm just not getting it yet.
Yeah.
Because I can't get past the guitar.
Takes us on to Idiot Wind.
Idiot Wind. He's cross here.
He is. I mean, this feels like, to me, like the center of the album. It's like the
center of the storm.
Yeah. It's such a central song. It just feels like everything is in its orbit almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's a classic Dylan song. You're right, he is angry.
I thought there was an interesting and this one not only tonally feels a bit different. I think performance-wise it feels really different. Like I feel like he starts off in such a sort of tiz. It's so much more erratic. He's so much more dynamic than he has been on the previous tracks. You almost go like, God, what happened to you that day when you recorded it? Like all the vocals are really, really wild. But then as it gets on, I feel like he gains clarity in his performance.
Yeah.
I mean, if I play the beginning, like that's the most mumbly he's been.
Yeah. So I did feel like I had to work through the vocal style here.
Okay.
Yeah, because exactly that mumble and then the whoa, it's kind of
like all of that. Like I know he's been doing a bit of those kind of like wild melodic choices, but here it feels more like he's at about 4 pints or something like that.
Yeah.
Or he feels like he's at the end of his tether.
Yeah.
In this one, and it does feel like he's slightly sort of rolling around with the kind of styling of it.
Yeah. But it's definitely one of those where I struggled at the start of the month, and by the end of the month I was, this is one of my favourite tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole kind of passion and the lyrics in this
are brutal.
Just great. Yeah. Yeah. Kiss goodbye to the howling beast that separates you from me. Yeah.
You don't need to look too hard to sort of find out what he's saying.
So there's not a lot of interpretation here or kind of dual meaning, actually. It's pretty straightforward. Maybe that's what I like about it.
Yeah. A lesson in how to deliver emotion.
Yeah.
When you're performing. I mean,
yeah.
It's big.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what it does feel big. As I say, it feels like the other songs are in its orbit somewhat. It's a big song.
Yeah, it's almost like the first 3 tracks he's sort of like, very delicately sort of trying to sort of touch upon how he feels, and then he's gone, right.
Yeah.
I've had enough.
Yeah.
This is how I feel.
Yeah.
And it's laid out pretty plainly.
Yeah.
It does have a chorus in the sense that it has the idiot wind refrain.
Yeah.
And it has a couplet in between which changes each time.
Yeah.
There's the Dylan in it. Blowing through the flowers on your tomb, blowing through the curtains in your room.
Yeah, the way he delivers like blood on your saddle.
Blowing through the buttons of our coats. I mean,
yeah.
He's so descriptive. He does such a wonderful way of finding how to say so much with so little.
Yeah.
Blowing through the buttons of our coats and blowing through the letters that we wrote. Wow. It's very good. Yeah, idiot wind, blowing every time you move your teeth. You're an idiot, babe. Yeah. It's a wonder that you still know how to breathe. I mean,
put that on a t-shirt. It's a 9 for me.
A 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a 7, I think.
What did you think to You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go?
I absolutely love this song.
It is a change of pace, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all in the bass. That like moving bass part. I think that's almost when Dylan's harmonica playing is at its best.
Yes, I was just thinking that myself.
That way that it kind of sweeps in and you know exactly where you are.
Yeah.
I like it less when he goes off on a harmonica solo.
I
don't really care for a harmonica solo, but
a
harmonica intro I'm all there for.
Yeah.
I'm big into it. Yeah, I absolutely love this song. It does that cyclical thing that I talked about earlier, which I really enjoy. And the sentiment of You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go is just such a, it sounds iconic, and it is.
Yeah, it's amazing that you can kind of conjure iconic things from your kind of songwriting. So kind of frequently with Dylan.
Yeah.
The lyrics in this are just great. It's a complete change of pace from Idiot Wind. I don't think they're quite as iconic, but it's just beautifully written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really tight song. And yeah, I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8 too. Oh, look at us agreeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's not do that again.
No.
Don't like it.
So, 1975, I wrote down a couple of notes about what was going on at the time in the United States. So, Microsoft was founded, obviously, big thing. The Vietnam War ended, and Volkswagen released the Golf. Obviously,
yeah.
Big thing.
I don't think I've ever owned a Golf. Have you?
No, but I really wanted to.
Yeah, most people have. But I don't,
I really wanted to. We had a Polo.
We had a Polo. We had a Polo.
Charlie Chaplin was knighted. Derby County won the first division.
Ah.
Football's a big thing for me and Paul, so it felt like that was important. I
There's
think every year we're going to find an album. I'm going to tell you who won the division that year.
Great.
And we are recording from York. We're in York. So the Railway Museum opened that year.
Did not know that.
Which is the museum in York, the big museum. But music that came out that year as well.
Yeah.
Born to Run, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy by Elton John. I mean, what a title. I hope I've got that right. This is when I look it up and I find someone stitched me up on the internet, and that's not a real thing. Bohemian Rhapsody was released.
So first album I ever bought with my own money, Night at the Opera, which included Bohemian Rhapsody. Oh, side 2, actually, if you're flipping over now.
All right, I've got a vinyl.
With Meet Me in the Morning.
Meet me in the morning.
So
A bit of a departure.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of... I found this my favourite song to start off with. I think I found it really accessible because it's just a classic blues tune.
Do you know, that's a really interesting point that you bring up with the vinyl thing, because obviously this would have been released on vinyl.
Yeah.
And actually, as a side 2, I can understand exactly why it's on the album. And up until now, I've kind of gone, I don't really get it.
Uh-huh.
Like, why is there just a blues song in the middle of here?
Yeah.
I don't think it says a lot. It's not that it wasn't for me. Like, I love blues music.
Yeah.
But I didn't kind of walk away going, wow, this is like one of the best blues songs I've ever heard.
Uh-huh.
For the whole of side A,
yeah.
I'm very much in that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And when you're listening to it, if you're streaming it and you're going all the way through, and you don't have that break of actually having to lift the stylus, turn it over and go back in, and then all of a sudden you get something new. I did feel like I was suddenly being pulled out of where I felt like I was settling into.
Yeah, yeah.
But as a side B, I can really understand where that would sit in the sort of context of. So that's actually it's a really interesting thing.
I think it's it maybe doesn't fit in the album. I think if you, I think for me, a couple of the songs, "Meet Me in the Morning" and "You're a Big Girl Now," are kind of were immediately accessible to me, and I enjoyed first. Yeah, those were songs that I enjoyed first as a song on their own. You know, it wasn't necessarily as part of the album or the story or the whole thing, but it. I think that blues style. I think his vocals are great on this, and I do like it as a kind of blues song. I really enjoyed it. You know, maybe it doesn't. Again, probably not on the list of greatest Dylan songs of all time because it doesn't have as much longevity or depth as other songs that you'll find on here, like Tangled Up in Blue or Idiot Wind for me. But I really liked it as a song. You know, just kind of a great way to start the second side.
Yeah. Okay. It has more. I've got more understanding for it now that we've had that discussion.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's not one that I'm reaching for. But you said that it was one of your favourites initially.
Yeah, it was,
but not now.
Well, so I mean, it's still up there, but I think other songs have caught up because let's talk about Idiot Wind. I didn't like the vocals. I found it hard to get through it, and that's one of the advantages of this sort of listening club that we've got here is that it almost forces you to push through.
Sure, and
you discover there's more depth in that song. There's more that I like about it. It sticks with me longer. Yeah. It has more interesting lyrics, but I had to push through the vocal style.
Yeah.
Whereas with Meet Me in the Morning, it just felt really accessible. Oh, this is a classic blues song. I love this. It was immediate. And so I still like it, but it didn't have that kind of journey for me whilst I was listening to the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like what you just said then, giving music time, I think is really valuable. You know, the everybody's discography ever lives in our pockets.
Mm.
You know, you could have a change of feeling and you can change what you want to listen to.
Yeah.
Whereas it's interesting, you go in this process and in actually kind of allowing stuff to breathe.
Yeah.
And have time to grow or shrink in your expectations, I think is like what we said when we started this out. There's so many things that I can and hold now as my favorite albums or favorite singles of all time. And I really didn't like the first time I heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, taking that time to give that music room to breathe, I think is pretty valuable.
That's what this is all about, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job. We noticed that halfway through this album. I'll give it a 6.
Oh, I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still right up there for me. It's a song that I'll go back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was the one that you gave a 6? One I liked.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Simple Twist of Fate.
Damn it.
Yeah. Oh, I think we might agree on this next song though, Tom. Lily, Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts.
Go on then.
I just don't know what it's doing here. Who invented the no skipping rule? What was that? I didn't like this song. And I don't know what it's doing here. And it's it feels like it doesn't fit in the album, and yeah, I would willingly skip it.
I hate to disappoint you. It might be one of my favourites.
Oh,
We had a conversation a couple of weeks back.
yeah.
And I said, like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And then I read the lyrics.
Uh-huh.
And the story is so compelling. It's a Western.
Yeah.
You know, you could adapt it into a film.
Yeah.
Like,
apparently there've been a few screenplays written.
Really?
Yeah, never made, but yeah.
Yeah, I can really see it. We talked about his use of a single line that he uses in many different fashions.
Yeah.
I think this maybe isn't his best use of it, but is his most artistic use of it. I know it's a long song, and I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I said, like, no song should be 9 minutes long. It's just not necessary.
And then there's a harmonica solo at the end just to kind of fill out the final 30 seconds.
But actually, I think in this case, there's value in that because it's so unrelenting.
Yeah.
And it's such a, it goes at a real pace. Actually, I think you probably need a break at the end of it to just kind of go, right, cool, okay. So I think the harmonica solo in actually this context probably does have some sense. I think if it just ended, you'd feel like you'd just been ripped through a hedge backwards, which maybe you feel anyway.
I mean, my main problem with it is that kind of repetitive, like, I don't know, country fair jamboree feel to it, just constant. And, 8.5 minutes of that is too much for me.
Yeah. And I think I felt the same.
Yeah.
Until I listened along to it and read the lyrics at the same time. Did you do that?
I did. I absolutely did.
But you didn't change your mind?
No.
Okay.
But I'm glad, actually, I am glad that you enjoy this song because it really kind of points of, I didn't understand why it's there. I read somewhere that they were saying, well, when Dylan kind of pulls you close, he'll then push you away on this album.
Right.
And this is a kind of it's a big push away, isn't it? It's a shaggy dog story that isn't really related to his feelings particularly. He's just kind of, it's a Western that he's telling. That just felt unnecessary for me. I wanted to stay close, if you like. But there you go. I'm glad you do disagree with me on this one.
Yeah, and I think I have a deep appreciation for it now. I don't know if it's necessarily one that I'm like, let's get that on.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not the most sort of like enjoyable listen. Like if I'm listening to it, it's because I want to hear the story.
Yeah.
So it's a very active listen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's probably quite fair. Like this line, she was gazing to the future, riding on the Jack of Hearts. I mean, come on. Like, it's so good. Yeah, and he uses the idea of leaning to the Jack of Hearts, like this triangle of emotions between these three sort of lead characters in this story. One who once had an affair with the Jack of Hearts, but is also the bit on the side for the guy who owns the diamond mine.
Yeah.
And this wife who knows everything that her husband's up to and has just had enough.
Yeah.
Like he does so much. Like I know it's a long song, but he does so much to get all of that into that.
Yeah.
It's 15 stanzas, which is a lot. Each one's only 5 lines long, and he's really strict with himself in the way it scans. Like there's not many times when he breaks the meter that he set himself.
Yeah.
It's all pretty tight. Yeah, I think as well, because it's doing something that's so different to the rest of it. I really appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.
Oh, I'm going to give it a 4.
4?
Yeah, I don't like
5.
it. I don't like
Sub
it.
5. That's fair. That's fair. You like it half as much as I do.
Yeah. If you see her, say hello.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think it's a relief to me coming off that. But
sure.
The thing I've said is I do love this song. It feels a little bit like You're a Big Girl Now in some ways, but it feels a bit more throwaway. And it's interesting that you kind of said, yeah.
I think it was, throwaway is maybe the right sort of vibe. Again, it's one that I probably need to, similar thing to the You're a Big Girl Now, I probably need to just spend a bit more time with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it might be a real grower. It just feels a bit self-deprecating in a way.
Right.
Do you think that's fair?
Yeah.
Maybe not in necessarily the lyrics, but certainly the style. It just all feels a bit down.
Yeah.
And the rest of the album is so up.
Yeah. But I think that is, I guess that's not a welcome emotion here, but it's an additional kind of feel for the album, and I quite like that in this context.
Yeah,
that it's different in its emotional state to a lot of the rest of the album. He feels like at parts like he's given up. I really like that, but maybe that's what makes it feel a bit more kind of throwaway, because there's not a lot to hold on to. You don't want to keep this song for long. It's just, almost I've given up.
It's got a bit of, in its sort of styling of the way he's singing, it has a bit of like he's come out of the back of Idiot Wind and he's like now sort of stopped to breathe.
Yeah.
I can really see the sort of the arc between the narrator, if they are the same, which, I know the narrator is. Then when you get to this point, I can understand the sentiment. I just guess I don't really love the song.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that I dislike it.
Yeah.
So it's a 6.
I'm a 7. I don't know.
Okay.
My scoring feels like it's all over the place, but yes, I'm going with a 7.
Well, maybe that's the sort of point of it.
Yeah. Cool. Shelter from the Storm.
Yeah.
Again, this feels a bit like Simple Twist of Fate to me in its kind of style, that kind of verse and refrain, which is very kind of clear here.
Yeah.
But also it's again a change of emotion. It feels a bit more positive. It doesn't feel quite the word, but more in love, if you like.
Yeah. I've written here, I love the opening lyric. It's just, it feels very Dylan.
Yeah.
Was in another lifetime, one of toil and blood.
Like, it's so evocative.
The road was full of mud.
This bit.
I came in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
I came in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Come in, she said. I'll give you shelter from the storm.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
Yeah.
Again, he's like a painter. Like, he's doing such a wonderful job of conjuring images and feeling like...
It's interesting you say that, because obviously he was under the influence of a painter. I don't know if you knew that, but at this time he'd been taking art classes with this very influential in his life, in Dylan's life, artist and painter, and therefore that...
So he'd been painting himself.
Yeah, but the kind of his teachings very much affected how Dylan thought about songwriting, as I understand, and the fact that you said that this feels like a painting probably reflects that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this song and this sort of area of Dylan's work is where I feel most comfortable. This is where I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
This is where I enjoy most, is the really lovely little couplets and the nice tagline and the sort of the tight musical aspect to it, and where as well that he feels like he's when he's not most free with his vocal, but where it feels like the guitar is just sort of rumbling along, the bass is doing its thing, and he's just sort of skipping across the top. A bit like why I like Simple Twist of Fate so much. And Lonesome When You Go. Yeah.
And that's not the same for me. So I like these songs, like Shelter from the Storm and Simple Twist of Fate feel like really good songs to me, but they just feel a little bit repetitive with the kind of the structure of them.
Sure.
And not therefore much to my taste. And I'm more of a Tangled Up in Blue, Idiot Wind, You're a Big Girl Now sort of person, actually. That's where the album sings for me.
So we lose you after song 4.
Well, yeah.
Did you listen to the side B?
Oh, is there a side B? Well, actually, as I said before, Meet Me in the Morning I love. If you see her, say hello. Also, and Shelter from the Storm, and actually we'll come on to Buckets of Rain. I think they're all good songs. They're not just kind of the heart of what I what I enjoyed about the album. So this, "Shelter from the Storm" is a great song. Yeah, there's no ifs or maybes, but I'm going to give it an 8. I think.
Yeah, 8.5.
Yeah, great.
I don't know why I've suddenly decided that we're allowed to give halves.
Well, we make the rules.
We do.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Nobody's keeping score.
I am.
Okay. So it takes us to the final track of the album, Buckets of Rain.
It does feel like he's signing off on this
Yeah.
track. Hang on, I'll play the intro. And actually, in that instance, it's really interesting that at no other point in the album have I gone, that guitar's really out of tune. And a bit like If You See Her Say Hello and Idiot Wind, the vocals really sort of, it's got an air of defeat about it.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of funny, that really sort of tumble down vocal, which I really, really love. But yeah, it's got that I don't remember hearing any of the guitars on it and going like, he's just not tuned it. And maybe that's like, I think there's a definite choice here.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many takes of all of these songs that surely that's a choice.
Yeah.
This was the product of 2 big recording sessions, one in New York and one in Minneapolis.
I read about one of the tracks, I can't remember which it was, it might have been Lily Rosemary that he re-recorded in Minneapolis.
Yeah. So half the tracks were re-recorded in Minneapolis.
Right. Do you know if this one was?
I don't.
Okay.
So my note was, is this good? Is this enough to close one of the greatest albums of all time? That's my question.
I really like it as a sort of end to an album. It's very downplayed. Like it's.
Yeah.
Do you know? I can't think of many albums that finish on like a massive note.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably got to do with a bit of the way that we like to consume things. Is, you know, even back then, you'd put your best songs at the beginning of the album.
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, it was for a really artistic reason. You'd put, you know, your big hits would be the first 4 tracks. And typically it wouldn't be the first. But actually, in this case, Simple Twist of Fate, I think, was the big single on this album. But yes, I think it's a really nice way to close it out. I really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it exactly that. That's what it feels like. This song and Shelter from the Storm, yes, I guess some of that pain comes through, but in a more melancholy way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the heart of the breakup, is it? This is actually, there's a bit of hope in the lyrics for both of these. You know, there's kind of love and hope in these songs, but the tone of them just feels, you know, that maybe a little bit more, as you said, broken.
I think it's a really lovely way to end the record.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 7.
I'm going to give it a 6.5 because I haven't given it a half score yet. So there we go.
Oh, get one in while you can.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We're at the end.
Yeah. I mean, so I've got a couple of questions for you. Do you agree that it's a great? Is it a great album for you?
Yeah.
And is it for you? Yeah. Is it something that you'll return to?
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I absolutely love this album and will continue to return to it. I will. I guess my final kind of question is, does it make you a Dylan fan and would you seek out more of his work?
I kept on having pulls to listen to other bits of his work whilst I was listening to this to kind of compare and contrast bits. But I didn't. And I think I chose not to because I thought then it's turning into something else. And actually we're trying to really sort of do this one. But yes, I think I will do a bit of extra listening. It will probably, if I did it, it probably would be a slightly sort of focused thing.
Yeah.
I
feel like I understand why. I understand more why people are massive Dylan fans. I absolutely do. I'm not sure I'm going to be one of those people. I will probably seek out a bit more Dylan. But
Yeah.
I'm not convinced it's for me necessarily. But I'm absolutely delighted that I got to listen to this album and make it part of my kind of rotation.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Paul, for listening to the album and doing the work.
Yeah, you too, Tom. You too.
But yeah, why don't you tell people where they can find us and what they can sign up to?
Yeah. So you can find us on our website, which is thelongplay.uk, and there you'll find a link to our mailing list where you can sign up and you'll get what are now called our mid-month missives of extra content and things to kind of read and watch relating to the month's albums.
And you can follow us on Instagram, can't you, Paul?
You can, at The Long Play Pod. There's also links to the WhatsApp group and the Discord server on the website, and click through there and
Come join us.
Come join us, exactly. Thanks for
And
listening along.
There'll be another poll starting when next month's album starts. There'll be another poll starting, so we'll be sure to circulate that. But Paul, the poll is in for next month. So do you want to announce to everybody what we're going to be listening to?
Yes, so I'm delighted to say that the album we're going to be listening to is Baduism by Erykah Badu. So very much a change of pace and scene from this month. And we'll be back in a few days' time with our intro and some background to Baduism. So look out for that.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Tom.
I'm Paul, and remember, no skipping,
No shuffling.